Hey everyone, this is Mast, and today I'm going to be showing you how to build Mercury and explaining why you should build him in this way. To start off, there are some basic things you should know about Mercury which influence how he should be built. His passive, Fastest God Alive, increases his physical power by 25% of the movement speed that he receives from items and his abilities, which means that boots give him an extra 17 physical power, while 10% movement speed items such as Stone Cutting Sword or Hasten Fatalis give him 9 extra power. His second ability, Maximum Velocity, also gives him 10% movement speed once fully leveled, which means he gets 9 physical power from leveling up that ability as well. Mercury's passive has another key factor, which increases the power of his next auto attack based on how far he has run leading up to it. This passive will increase the damage of your next auto attack by up to 50%, and it scales with crit. Naturally, this means that building physical power on Mercury is a good idea, because his passive amplifies his physical power. And because critical chance is best used with high physical power, crit is also very strong on Mercury. It's also important to remember that Mercury's second ability gives him an additional 70% attack speed when active at max rank. Combined with his level 20 attack speed of 1.48, Mercury gets 2.18 attack speed with this ability active late game. With the attack speed cap at 2.5, building attack speed really doesn't make sense on Mercury, making power and crit an even more obvious choice. With all of that out of the way, it's time to move on to the build itself. On the screen, you can see the quote-unquote meta build, which is the build I normally see from high-level players on Mercury. For the rest of this video, I'm going to be going over these items and also show you my personal build, which makes even more sense than the meta build once you go over the numbers. So to start off, the first item you should be building is Warrior Tabby, which gives Mercury 57 physical power instead of 40 physical power due to his passive. Again, Mercury amplifies physical power and has attack speed built into his kit, which is why you should build Warrior Tabby over Ninja Tabby. Next up is the second item, and Mercury's second item is definitely the most controversial item in his build, so we're going to look at some of the options. Items to look at here are Wind Demon, Stone Cutting Sword, and Transcendence. Wind Demon gets Mercury started in a crit right away, and the movement speed from critting with Wind Demon is great for Mercury's playstyle. Stone Cutting Sword provides power, movement speed, and protections on auto attacks, which are all very helpful to Mercury and great for building into critical chance items due to that high physical power. Remember that once again, 10% movement speed is going to be an additional 9 power, so it's actually going to give you 59 physical power over the normal 50. And finally, Transcendence offers much more physical power, which works very well with Mercury's passive and is very effective for building into crit. These damage numbers are all calculated with Mercury at level 11, fighting against a level 11 assassin with base physical protections of 44. These three items are surprisingly similar in damage at this point, however Wind Demon does not provide enough power to scale as well into later crit items as the other two items shown. Remember that Stone Cutting Sword does reduce enemy protections while buffing Mercury's, so it is a bit better than it shows up here. What may surprise you is that Transcendence actually matches up impressively before it's even stacked, and it tops the damage charts once it's completely stacked. It's worth noting that the DPS is calculated without Mercury's passive stacked up at any point. Mercury's auto attack with his passive stacked up is a very important part of his damage, and this especially is where Transcendence takes the cake. So while the meta build would be to go Stone Cutting second, I prefer Transcendence due to much better late game scaling and very comparable performance in the early game. So next up we have our third item, and it's at this point in the build where you want to start building crit on Mercury. The two options here are Wind Demon and Rage. Hi-Rez just recently changed Rage so that once you've participated in 5 kills with it, the item offers 35% crit instead of 20% crit. If this is nerfed, which it may well be, Wind Demon will be the way to go, but until then, Rage is going to be the better option. 35% crit is just too strong to pass up on and will give you far more damage than Wind Demon once you reach it. The great thing about Rage in that third slot is how well it scales into Deathbringer, which is going to be our fourth item. That extra 15% crit over Wind Demon is extremely helpful in getting those big Deathbringer crits off and makes it much more likely that you'll get one of those huge crits when you've got your passive stacked up. Deathbringer is the go-to item once you already have one crit item online due to the big damage increase in critical hits, so there's no other items to really discuss in this slot. In the fifth slot, we have Titan's Bane, and at this point you definitely need to be getting that penetration online to make sure that physical protection won't completely shut you down. Your auto attacks hit so hard with high power and high crit, the Executioner really isn't a good buy here, just because you're only going to be getting a few autos off on an enemy. You also want to make sure that your first auto is hitting as hard as possible, so Titan's Bane is definitely the way to go. And finally, onto the 6th slot, this should be filled with either a Wind Demon or a utility item. For the meta build, players have the option of Rage or a utility item as well. If Rage does get nerfed, Malice would be your best substitute here. The extra crit chance from Wind Demon will be really helpful, and triggering its passive is very easy at this point due to your high crit chance. Basically, this means that you'll be moving in an extra 20% movement speed whenever you're fighting, which will be a big help for sticking to enemies and disengaging. However, you can fill the slot with a utility item if you're up against some problematic slows or crowd controls. This utility item can be either a Winged Blade to deal with slows or a Magi's Blessing to deal with big crowd controls. So that wraps up the video, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please do leave a like down below, and if you aren't already, subscribe to the channel for future videos. This is the first God-specific build video I've done. Let me know what you think, and if you'd like to see anything different. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.
I've been seeking for the glory. Say my name. And I've been trying to write my own story in the search for fame. I'm sitting here in this empty room, walls keep tumbling down.